Hey, I'm a nice cold cuke on a hot summer's night, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to get Reins of Anu'relos, which is the mount off the last boss here on Mythic only, as well as a chance at the legendary two-handed axe Fyr'alath, which is used by Death Knights, Paladins, and Warriors at the time of making this video, and that drops on all 4 difficulties, so you can run that 4 times per week per character that you want. In this video, I am a 275.43 item level Fury Warrior, which is mostly heroic gear that is almost fully upgraded. This was recorded on Sunday, April 26th, 2026 in patch 12.0.5.67186 of the Midnight expansion. As with all my mount running videos, I'll be keeping the map open throughout the entirety of this in case you've never been here before and you want a better sense of direction. And I'll also be including the damage meters in this video because I know some people have asked for that in the past because they want to see how much damage I'm doing. I don't know what exactly item level you need to do this. If you just go in there and see how you do, that's what I would recommend. I was able to do this at around 260 before the Fyrakk nerfs, but I was never able to kill him, so I was able to get up to him. Going into this first boss, all the trash up to the first boss is skippable except for the 4 packs here. When you kill them, there's about 30 seconds of RP, and then Gnarlroot, the first boss, becomes available. The main thing here is try to pull him as close to the edge of the room as you can. This is mostly for people who are going to get into the intermission phase, which I'll try to talk about here shortly. The main thing that he does is called Controlled Burn, which is a big circle around you for 5 seconds. You'll see it here shortly. This will drop a puddle on the ground, which in this video, I'm going to stand in everything. I'm going to show you a worst case scenario just so you can see how much damage it's doing. But ideally, you don't want to stand in that. And if you get into the intermission, that'll just be sitting on the boss in mid, which is going to make your life more miserable. What happens when he gets to 100 energy is he will start that intermission phase, which is very tedious and it just sucks. What'll happen is he'll spawn 9 or 10 roots. And then there will be circles on the ground that you have to stand in to get a 15-second debuff that has like 3 stacks. You have to touch every part of all of the roots to finish that phase. It takes like 5 minutes. It's so tedious. It sucks. And if you don't want to do it, I don't blame you. Just stand on the boss and he'll kill you quicker because there's an AoE there that doesn't really do that much damage, but that phase sucks. After the first boss, there are 4 mobs that want to pick a fight. You're going to demolish them, and there's about 20 seconds of RP before the second boss, Igira the Cruel, comes out. There's, again, not a whole lot going on in this fight. I'm going to be standing in pretty much everything. I'll probably be saying that throughout the entirety of this video, so sorry if it gets a little bit annoying. Blistering Spear you just saw, that'll put a spear on you that has bad stuff underneath it. Just AoE off the boss to get rid of that. The main thing with this boss is that when he gets to 100 energy, he will cast Marked for Torment, then he'll jump away, and then he'll channel Marked for Torment for 20 seconds. When he's doing this, there will be swirlies that spawn underneath you that either stun you or knock you back. I don't quite remember, so just try to avoid them. He's going to start doing that here shortly. And one of the other things you're seeing as well is that frontal ability of Twisted Blades. That doesn't do that much damage. Again, if you're lower geared, this might be doing more damage. At 260, I believe I was for the most part able to survive. I know the first boss and I think the last 2 or 3 bosses were a little bit rough, but everything else was relatively easy. So again, with those swirlies that I'm dodging, just try not to stand in those because they are not fun and they do a stun and or knockback. I forget which one it is. When you're done this fight, you have the option to either go left or right. It doesn't matter which way you go first. You're going to have to do both sides anyway. I prefer to go right because the worst bosses in this raid, in my opinion, are on this side. There's about 30 seconds of RP before you can click the door to open it, and then you can make your way to the first awful fight of this raid. As we're making our way over there, I've got some time, so I want to talk about how Dragonflight was one of my favorite expansions ever. It might be maybe even my favorite expansion of all time. By the way, all this trash is skippable. One thing I loved about Dragonflight, or I guess the main thing I loved about Dragonflight, was how it truly felt like it was casual friendly for the first time, probably since Warlords of Draenor. I felt like I could, as a casual, log in and just play and not really fall that far behind, or I wasn't being forced to do stuff. There wasn't stuff like Anima or Covenants or anything that Shadowlands had to offer. I could just play. And overall, it felt like the story and just the vibe of everything was just low stakes. I didn't feel like I was being pressured into saving the world again, and there's this big world-eating threat that I had to defeat again. It just felt very... there's low stakes, and I liked it a lot. I really, really like Dragonflight, and still, at this point, what, 3-4 years later, I still do miss it. One of my favorite expansions ever. The weird thing, though, is that this raid, I wasn't really a big fan of. I'm not really a big fan of. I think part of it is just the color palette, which is weird, because it's like, It is vibrant, I guess, but it just feels very dull. And just over the fights, never really that big of a fan of them. I might talk about that a little bit later, but not my favorite raid. But let's focus up and get to the fight here. So what you're going to do when you get into this large room is walk into the center. When you walk into the center, Pip, who is one of the bosses, is going to spawn, talk for a little bit, and then will spawn 20 clones of themselves. You need to walk around and click every clone that has spawned. It takes a minute or so, kind of tedious. After that, you're turned into a duck for 11 seconds. Your number 1 ability will leap forward and then give you a small speed increase. Get used to that. You're going to have to use that in the fight. After that, a couple of bears will spawn on opposite sides of the room, kill them, and then the boss will jump down, and then the fight begins. So I'm just going to go over the mechanics and then summarize it at the end, because there is quite a lot. These bosses do not share health pool. As soon as one gets to 1 health, it does a channel that, I think it's like 15 seconds, that will heal it to 50% if successful. Urktos is the only one that follows you around. That is the bear form looking mob. Erwin is the centaur who will leap away at the start of the fight and then randomly throughout the fight as well. I think he only does it one more time in this video, so it doesn't happen often. He otherwise also just does not move. Pip is the butterfly, I guess, and will kind of just float around, spawning a bunch of the green circles you're seeing on the ground. Pip also will blink around the room every 30 seconds or so, but doesn't usually go far. Urktos is doing barreling charge now, and that has the red arrow as you saw. Get in the habit, even if these mechanics are not happening, get in the habit of pointing that at Erwin, because Erwin does Constricting Thicket at 100 energy. This will have like a green mossy looking line from the boss to you, and Erwin will also glow green. This has a stacking dot and stacking movement speed decrease, and Urktos' charge will interrupt that. So he's doing it now. Again, even if he's not doing it, get in the habit of pointing that charge at him. Pip will polymorph you throughout the fight, which you've seen a few times now. This will turn you into duck like it did before. Your 1 ability will leap and give you a small movement speed increase. Do that towards the green circles on the ground, ideally near Pip so you can clear up some space. Once you pick up 3 green circles, you can use your number 2 ability to break out of the polymorph. Just running over the circles won't do anything, you do have to use your 1 ability. When you use your number 2 ability, there is a small blue circle around you that will interrupt Urktos' blind rage cast that he does at 100 energy. So again, even if he's not doing it, get in the habit of doing that. At 100 energy, Pip will also channel Song of the Dragon, which this one I wasn't able to really figure out, even though I read everything and watched videos and tried it myself. If he finishes this cast and you still have stacks of Song of the Dragon on you, you will get stunned for 15 seconds and take a lot of damage per second. Standing in green circles apparently removes this, but I wasn't able to get that working, so if anyone can let me know in the comments how to do that, that would be great. So in summary, red arrow goes through Erwin to interrupt Constricting Thicket. When you get polymorphed, use your 1 ability to leap on green circles, and then when you've collected 3 of them, use your number 2 ability on top of Urktos to interrupt blind rage. When Pip does Song of the Dragon, apparently pick up green circles. One thing to be mindful of also is Pip's polymorph cast and how often it goes out. I had a pull where I got them all to like 15% health, popped all my cooldowns, killed 1 of them, and then got polymorphed. And then in a panic, I wasn't able to break free of that polymorph before that one boss healed. So it's okay if you need to wait. If you don't know when the next polymorph is, just wait until it happens and then go through all your cooldowns and all that stuff to make sure you're not having what happened to me happen to you. In my opinion, that is the worst fight in this raid, and if you can do that one, you're not going to have a hard time with anything else. I was able to do that at, I think, 250 as well, 260 obviously, but I think when I was 250 especially, the damage that fight was doing was insane, especially the longer it went, because I wasn't as geared, so I wasn't doing as much damage. I think I got like 6 or 7 minutes into the fight. It was just rough, and it took a couple of times. So the more gear you have, the much easier that will be, and the far less annoying and frustrating that fight will be. Let me know if you have any comments, questions in the comments, because I will be happy to answer those. I try to help anybody out who has any issues. Moving into this next section, there are 2 cycle wardens. You have to interrupt their life ward cast to be able to attack them. Unfortunately, they don't share interrupts, so if you have a long interrupt cooldown, you're going to have to just wait until it comes off cooldown to do the second one. Once they die, the boss has a few seconds of RP, and then it will start. So throughout this fight, there are going to be green circles that are very small that spawn around you and around the room. You're going to see one spawning to the right of me now. Those either stun you or knock you back. I don't remember which one, but either way, they're not good. Throughout the fight, the boss will also do Weaver's Burden, which you're seeing now. This is that big green circle around me for 6 seconds. Try to drop this away from the boss, especially if you're a lower geared melee, because it does damage when you stand in it. The next thing to know is the green orbs that are spawning now. There's going to be 2 that fall from the sky. It's good to angle your camera down from the sky to see them better. When they fall, or when they land, they're going to be linked together by a blue line. If you stand in that blue line, you'll get stunned for a couple seconds. If you've never done this before, maybe just stand back for a second just to see how they kind of come out. So that way you understand kind of how that works, because it took me a few times to really understand how those orbs are coming down and how they link together. When the boss gets 100 energy, 2 more Cycle Wardens will spawn. You only need to interrupt one of them this time. The other one will automatically get interrupted. There's also a Manifested Dream near the entrance of the platform that you want to kill as well. When all 3 of those ads die, this boss goes back to phase 1. Same thing as before, just get the green circle out of the way. Try not to stand in the smaller green circles and try to look out for the orbs that are connected. Once you've defeated that boss, make your way up the stairs and behind them, and make sure to click on the Seed of Life. This will make it so that you can go through the doorway that opens up behind them. This will take you back to where you killed the second boss. There will be an NPC there that you can sell or repair gear to, in case your bags are getting full. When you get here as well, you'll go to the other side of the room, so if you went left, you're obviously going to go right, or vice versa. While I'm heading over there, just really quick, a lot of people ask about my add-ons, so I'll just quickly go over some of the ones that I use here. My unit frames are unhalted unit frames. For chat, I'm using Pratt. For my bars, I'm using Dominoes. I'm also using Bigwigs. I don't think you can really see it in this video much. I'm using Tip Tack for my tooltip on the bottom right. And then for my bags, I'm using Baginator. This section of the raid I actually like a lot more as well. This is probably my favorite section of the raid, just because it reminds me of Firelands or Molten Core and just looks better. Like, this is definitely more an aesthetic that I enjoy. Going back to what I was talking about Dragonflight, like I said, it's been a couple of years now, and I do still miss it. I do still miss the vibe that it had. One of the things I love that it introduced were skywriting. It was called dragon riding back then, but now called skywriting. I love that. One of my favorite things was logging in and doing all the skywriting races, the normals, the backwards, the advanced. I think there's only, when it first came out, I think it was only the normal and the backwards. And I think later on they added the advanced, and I think one more, like reversed advanced or something like that. Either way, I love that. That was one of my favorite things in the entire expansion. Plus the best part too was like the world quest for that gave like 1,000 gold. So you can go to each of the zones and get like 7, 8, 9,000 gold from just a week's worth of flying around. It was awesome. In this next boss room, there's going to be 3 groups of ads. There's imps on the right, the dudes in the middle, and then imps on the left. Once you kill all of them, the boss will spawn after a few seconds. If you see like a large black shadow underneath you, just move out of the way of that. You'll see it in the boss fight here shortly as well. When the boss spawns, this is Volcoross, by the way. When the boss spawns, basically, if it looks bad, don't stand in it. Again, throughout this video, I'll be standing and stuff to show you a worst case scenario, but none of the stuff here is good to stand in, so just don't. Especially if you have a lower item level. One of the things I mentioned also, you're going to see a black shadow here coming shortly. There's a tentacle behind me. This right here, if you see that, just move out of the way. That will actually stun you if you get hit, so just makes this fight take longer. Other than that, though, it's not that big of a deal, this fight. If your DPS is low, one of the things you're going to have to worry about is the platform getting on fire. So you're not going to see it in this video, but he will spawn 2 red circles that require 4 people in each one to soak. Because you're doing it solo, you won't be able to soak it, so don't even stand in them. But because no one has soaked those circles, the entire platform will be covered in fire, and you'll be taking damage during that. It doesn't do that much damage, but again, if you're lower geared, it might kill you. Once you do that, you're going to make your way to the north door to continue going to the next boss on this side of the raid. If you played Dragonflight, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Because I think that Dragonflight was generally positively received. I think for a lot of people, it was a fine expansion, especially coming from stuff like Shadowlands and BFA. It was a nice change of pace that wasn't systems heavy, that didn't have a bunch of stuff you had to grind. And I think looking back, especially 2 expansions later, I think Dragonflight did kind of set the framework for almost kind of like resetting WoW in a sense, because it went back to, like I've said in the past, it went back to a more casual friendly approach. And in the War Within and now in Midnight, I'm definitely seeing some of the stuff that Dragonflight put into play now showing in expansions. So I'm just curious what everyone else thinks of the Dragonflight expansion. But let's talk about this boss here. This is Larodar. There are once again 3 groups of mobs you need to kill. Once you kill them, there's about 3 seconds of RP, and then the boss will become active. There's a lot of mechanics here that will spawn the black thing underneath you, which I'll just refer to as fire now. This doesn't do a lot of damage. It might actually do some damage if you're lower level, of course, but at 275 it doesn't do that much damage. If you want to maximize your space, you can move around to where that black stuff isn't as it spawns. The boss has a charge that he's doing here shortly that will knock you back. I try to position myself so I'm getting knocked back into kind of a corner where there is no fire, and I can drop some more fire there. As you're seeing, I just got knocked back in this nice little corner here. There will also be tornadoes that spawn and move towards the boss. If they touch him, he gets a damage buff. These ones here. I thought I could stand in one and it wouldn't go to the boss, but I guess that wasn't the case, so I'm not sure if those can be soaked or not. There's also a fixate that will root you in place for 10 seconds and will, if the boss charges you, will not knock you back. So this is really only a concern if you're not if you're not very geared and the fire is actually damaging you. Getting rooted in the fire is not great. Once you've killed the boss, you're going to go into the center of the room and click the Seed of Life here. This will open up the teleporter on the northwestern side of the platform, which will take you back to the place where you killed Igira, which once again, there is a repair there. You can sell some stuff as well in case your bags are getting full. As we're making our way to the next section of the raid, I'm curious what everyone thinks of this raid itself. Whether it's your first time doing it or just doing it solo now for the mount runs, or if you did it when it was current content, I'm curious what your thoughts are about it, because I feel like I remember people being relatively positive about this. I think there were a couple of fights, specifically the last few, that people were not very excited about, especially on Mythic. I believe the last fight on Mythic is one of the most pulled bosses ever. But yeah, I'm just curious what people think about that, because I think overall raids were generally well received in Dragonflight, just for some reason they didn't really click with me. Back in this room, we're going to head up top on the map, north side of the map, and we're going to click on the formation seed that's there. This will take about 20 seconds to fully charge, and then the bridge will spawn. On this bridge, there will be orange swirlies that will knock you depending on where you're standing on them. And if you're noticing a cut here shortly, you didn't. Okay. So yeah, just try to avoid these swirlies because they'll knock you in the direction you're standing in. This is a pretty long bridge, so if you have any sort of movement speed increases or anything like a blink or a leap for a warrior, definitely utilize that because it'll make this go faster. Obviously, just for the purpose of this video, I didn't use my leap because I just wanted to show a full walk across the bridge. But also, if you're a pro gamer, one thing you can do is you can position yourself, if you can get there in time, you can position yourself at the top of the swirly that's there, and it will shoot you forward. It'll actually send you quite a bit away. So if you can get there, do that. Otherwise, don't, because you'll get knocked off. So Smolderon is going to talk for about 10 seconds, and then when you pull him, try to pull him to the edge of the room here like I'm doing now. Especially if you take a lot of damage in this raid, if you're lower item level. He'll do lava geysers, which will create orange swirlies, and then those orange swirlies will turn into a fire puddle. You'll also get knocked back a bit if you stand in those swirlies. You want to try to keep those puddles out of mid because the boss will run there at 100 energy, and it'll just make your life a little bit easier. These are the swirlies here that will knock you back and spawn those swirlies. These orbs that fixate you, I believe they used to do some damage. They don't really do a whole lot of damage here. Once again, if you're just kind of skimming through the video, I am trying to stand in as many of these mechanics as I can just to show you a worst case scenario. So here we go. At 100 energy, the boss is going to run into the middle, and if you've done Voracious in Voidspire, it's a similar mechanic. He'll be spawning fire circles for about 30 seconds, and there'll just be a safe zone, so just stand in the safe zone. If you're higher geared, you can just get hit by them, and it's not that big of a deal. You'll notice that I just, a few seconds ago, walked over 5 orbs that spawned, and we're going towards the boss. If you walk over those, you get a debuff that's actually a buff. You'll get 5 stacks of a damage increase. So definitely pick up those 5 orbs. They might be a little bit hard to see. If you rewind the video a bit, you might be able to catch me doing that, but definitely pick those up. After the middle phase just goes back to normal. Once he dies, there's a cinematic after the fights, and then you're going to talk to the Verdant Dreambreaker Dragon and select the dialogue option to pursue Fyrakk. There's about 30 seconds of flight, and then when you're here, walk forward until Fyrakk, the big dragon, turns to face you. At this point, you can mount up and just wait for them to finish the 30 seconds of RP. The boss Tindral will fall onto the ground, knock you back, spawn some swirlies that aren't that big of a deal. On Tindral, there's nothing really good to stand in, so if you want to move out of stuff, you should. The main thing to know about here is flare bombs. This will spawn 5 orange swirlies, which I know there's a lot of orange here, but there's going to be 5 orange swirlies that spawn. And in those swirlies, eventually will spawn feathers. You're seeing it come out here. Do not pick up those feathers, because when you go to chase the boss a little bit later, you'll be dismounted. Don't ask me how I know that. When the boss gets to 60% health, he will fly away and do Typhoon, which used to knock you back. I don't know why it doesn't anymore, but in case it does again at some point knock you back, do not get hit into the flare bomb feathers. Once he does Typhoon, he will spawn 2 feathers that you can pick up. Do pick up those specific feathers, and then make sure to get it on your flying mount. So make sure before you're pulling, I should have mentioned this earlier, make sure you're in Skyriding and not the old flying. Follow the boss to the second platform, which is around northeast of here. You should be able to follow. The green orbs there will reset your stacks for Skyriding if you need it. I try not to do that because I don't really know how the red orbs go. It just kind of, I don't know. I've always had a hard time figuring out how the red orbs circle. So the red orbs will just dismount you and you'll wipe. So if you need to, you can get a green orb. Otherwise, just fly normally. On the second platform, I'll talk about here in a second. At 40% health, the boss will fly away to the third platform, which is around southeast. The second and third platform are the same, so I'll just talk about that here. When you get to the second and third platform, the boss will have a 20-second supernova cast. There is a damage absorb that the boss has, and once you break that damage absorb, the supernova cast will stop. And then the fight goes back to normal. The main thing, again, just being flare bombs. Don't stand in those. Don't get knocked back into them. Pick up the feather after the Typhoon, and then follow the boss. On the third platform, once you kill the boss, that's it. When that boss dies, don't mount yet, even though you can. Fyrakk will appear on the west side of the platform and RPs at you for about 30 seconds. He'll spawn a weird looking thing there. A green orb will come out of it, land on the platform, and then you can mount and go into the birthing canal on your mount. And now we're at the last boss, Fyrakk. So when you start the fight, try to kite him to the back of the room as best as you can. He has a lot of standstill abilities, so it's kind of annoying. The back of the room will have black puddles that are spawning. I'll just refer to these as fire puddles moving forward. Firestorm will put a 4-second circle around you that will drop another fire puddle. You'll see it here shortly. Ideally, you want to stack these all together, especially if you're lower geared, but it's not that big of a deal if you can't. Do not, as best you can, do not put any abilities on the roots up front, because that will kill the heart of Amirdrassil and make you wipe. Those are the roots kind of at the top of the screen there. Other than that, there's a couple of big orange swirlies that are coming out now that'll spawn some more black puddles on the ground, and that's pretty much phase 1. At 70% health, the boss will jump away, and then he'll land in the middle of the room as a Drake. There is an AoE happening during this, and Fyrakk also gets an absorb shield. When you break the absorb shield, the phase will end. There will be orange and purple orbs moving towards the boss that you can ignore, but if you want to pick them up, only pick up one color, because if you pick up purple and orange, bad stuff happens, or it used to. I don't know if it still matters, but don't. Once you're done that phase, there's quite a strong pushback, so if you're ranged, don't stand too far back so you get knocked off the platform. Fyrakk will then jump back down in his regular form at the back of the room. From here on out, just try to position him around this area. And the reason for that is because there are friendly NPCs, as you're seeing, that will spawn. You just saw the horizontal laser beam that the boss will put on you and shoots out. If that laser hits an NPC, it will make them hostile. With the recent nerfs to this, I don't know how few ads you can get away with, but I didn't want to test it. The ads slowly walk towards the front of the room, and if you're a healer, you can heal them, but it's not necessary to do that anymore. When they get to the front of the room, they will heal the heart of Amirdrassil, which is what you wanted to do throughout this fight to keep that up. But again, with the recent nerfs, you don't need to worry about that very much. They do so much healing now. Every time Fyrakk gets to 100 energy, he will fly away and spawn a Burning Colossus ad. Just kill that. Don't stand in the center of the room. He will do this flyby that you're seeing and then spawn some of these Screaming Souls. Try to kill these as quickly as possible because they do an AoE, which doesn't hurt that much unless, of course, you're lower geared. Shortly after flying, he'll land, and then you just continue the fight once again, where you try to keep him in the back of the room until he gets 100 energy, and then does the flyby again. Make sure also, if you're killing the ads a little bit slowly like I am here, you're being mindful of where you're positioning the horizontal and the vertical, actually, strike that he does when those ads come out. Try not to hit those ads. You can definitely hit some ads, but hitting all of them is you're going to wipe on this fight, so you definitely need those ads to come into the heart of Amirdrassil. But that's pretty much it. After he dies, there's a cinematic, and then you can loot him. There's also a portal back to Valdrakken, as well as a portal to the Wellspring Atrium, which will take you to the start of the raid if you want to go there. So if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a like. Good luck farming the legendary and or the mount, whatever you're after. Let me know how it goes down below in the comments. Make sure to check out the playlist for more mount farming videos. I've got pretty much everything you could ever want, and all the videos are similar to this one. If you really like this video and you want to support me, a subscribe goes a long way. Thanks for watching. I love you lots. Have a fantastic day. I'll talk at you eventually.